Donald Trump's press conference. There's a new sheriff in town. Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and I have come to the realization that in order for the human race to reach the next step of evolution and get to a point where we can coordinate successfully on a global scale, it will require that almost every citizen be at least somewhat well informed about politics. The dark ages of the clueless masses are finished because the working class seems to be waking up to the notion that as long as you cross-reference various news sources from the comfort of your computer and remember to check both left and right-wing outlets, you can figure out which facts are on the table pretty well and then decide which politicians and pundits you trust. Still, what we saw during the 2016 presidential campaign was no less than a gigantic media conspiracy fully revealed. And now the culprits are squirming in the sun like nocturnal animals blinded by the light of truth. And as we saw in President Trump's press release on February 16th, a lot of mainstream media still doesn't know what to do. But they're gonna have to figure it out quickly. Now, I know a number of professional journalists, some of which I have known as far back as elementary school, and let me tell you my experience. The people who have succeeded in this industry over the past 30 years are not the daring, rebellious, curious, intrepid young people from the 80s movie who were hot on the scoop that almost ended up getting them killed. No, the people who succeed in journalism today are the teachers' pets of the world, who say what their bosses tell them to say 500 times over every year in a new and slightly different way each time. How many different ways can I say that white people are horrible? Asked no BuzzFeed employee ever. If they had ever actually uttered that question out loud, they had already showed themselves to be independent-minded and a bad seed. They would get fired. That said, it is obvious that these pod people versions of journalists have no idea what to do when dealing with a president like Trump. He can think on his feet, and their liberal arts educations did not prepare them for somebody who has such policies as he is talking about implementing, because their universities taught them how to be journalists in the USA run by Clinton Incorporated and very deliberately nothing else. These journalists were trained to think the future is female. They had no backup plan. That's why CNN is mincing onions and trying to make it viral that he messed up and said that he had the greatest electoral victory since Reagan, as if saying that makes him some horrible liar, when technically he said, "I guess it was the biggest electoral college win since Ronald Reagan," which implies doubt to begin with and is also a fairly trivial statement. Who the hell cares that he said that? It's like they didn't watch the rest of the speech. Or they don't want other people to watch the rest of the speech, which is probably what it is. So here, I want you to imagine a scenario to paint a bit of a metaphor, which will further illustrate the type of landscape we're dealing with in terms of news media and federal politics, which is that you should imagine that we're at a playground at an elementary school, and every day the kids go out to play, and the kids represent the press. And of course, prior to winter break, there was the usual recess lady. She would represent the DNC. And for the purpose of this fantasy scenario, there's one kid that we'll call Donnie, who represents every non-regressive leftist media outlet that exists. So he's like Sargon, Dave Rubin, Steven Crowder, and everybody in between, all rolled into one. Hey Cindy, why are you crying? I don't want to talk about it. Don't worry, Cindy. You can tell me. Well, Donnie said something mean. That Donnie, he's mean. He's a mean boy. Yeah, he's mean. What did he say? He said I was a loser. Well, I never. Donnie, get over here. Yes, ma'am. Don't call me ma'am. I'm not elderly. Why on earth would you insult poor Cindy? Don't you know you cannot call girls names? Your violent words made her cry. You mean young boy. But I didn't. All I did was beat her at tetherball and said that she was the loser. That's no excuse. I am calling your parents and recommending that they ground you. Get out of my sight. Yes, Miss Darrens. Now, Cindy, I want you to listen to me and listen to me closely. If that Donnie ever does anything that makes you cry, if he says anything mean, or he hits any kids, or even if he doesn't offer to play with another kid and makes them sad, I want you to tell me about it. Tell me right away. And you can tell every other kid that this rule applies to them too. You can come and tell me about it right away, okay? Okay. Go off and play now. And Cindy, every time you tell on him, I'll give you candy. All the kids get candy every time Donnie gets in trouble. So you can imagine what it was like on the playground prior to winter break while Obama was still in power. But then what happens all of a sudden after break is over? You guessed it. They get a new recess lady. This new recess lady would represent Trump in this metaphor. But apparently the kids don't know that the old rules don't apply for some reason. I don't know why they wouldn't get it, but they still don't get it. And this is what happens. What's going on, Peter? It's Donnie. Oh boy. What are you on about this time? He made me cry. Yep, I can tell. What did he do? He hurt me. How? Aren't you gonna punish him? Where's my candy? No candy. What did Donnie do to make you cry? He pushed me. And you're crying from being pushed. That doesn't sound realistic. Why did he push you? Tell me why, Peter. You came to tell me something. So tell me something. Well, he pushed me because I was chasing him around and saying he was literally Hitler and that he was rapey. So he told me to leave him alone and then I wouldn't and then he pushed me. And you're crying because of that? What the fuck is wrong with you kids? You think I'm gonna give you candy for being a tattletale? Fuck off. I'm calling your mother and I hope she grounds you for this, you little bitch. Okay, I realize that this is not a perfect metaphor for several reasons, but this is what came to mind after watching the press conference. The press had no idea how to act because the recent recess lady made them into a bunch of psycho tattletales and told them that they'd always be rewarded just so long as they demonized the right person. And now they are slowly learning that this simply isn't going to work anymore. Or their news organizations will perish. Their ratings will go down. Nobody will pay attention to them. They'll be culturally irrelevant. It will be interesting to see this happen, to say the least. Drop me a comment and stay tuned.